So what if I told you that a system cooked up over 2,300 years ago is still one of the sharpest tools we have for understanding politics? A framework that cuts right through all the noise and asks one very simple question. Is a government good or is it bad? Okay, let's get into the absolutely brilliant political mind of Aristotle.
Everything for Aristotle really starts with this one core idea. You see, for him, politics isn't some boring activity for elites off in a distant capital. Nope. He thought it's in our DNA. He believed that to live a truly good life, to reach our full potential as humans, we have to live together in a community, in what he called a state. Being part of a political system is just as natural to us as, say, building a family.
And the man who gave us this incredible insight is often called the father of political science. And we're not just talking about some philosopher with his head in the clouds here. We are talking about a guy who looked at the total chaos of human governance and approached it with the rigorous mind of a scientist.
Now, to really get his work, you have to understand his world. Born way back in 384 BCE, Aristotle was a student of the legendary philosopher Plato, sure, but he was also the personal tutor to the kid who would become Alexander the Great. Think about that. He was moving in the absolute highest circles of power, which gave him a front-row seat to the very politics he would later spend his life analyzing.
And his method? It was totally revolutionary for its time. See, Aristotle didn't just dream up theories from an armchair. He was all about the data. He and his students went out and collected, studied, and picked apart 158 different real-world constitutions from all the Greek city-states. This was data-driven political science 2,300 years ago. He basically laid the groundwork for what we now call comparative politics.
So, with all this incredible data, what was he actually looking for? Well, he wanted to go beyond just describing how governments work. He wanted to start evaluating them. And to do that, he needed a simple, universal test to sort the good ones from the bad ones.
He boiled everything down to this single, powerful question. And it's a question we still ask every single day when we look at our own leaders and our own systems, right? What is the real, fundamental difference between a government that works for its people and one that works against them?
And his answer was brilliantly simple. For Aristotle, the ultimate test wasn't about whether you had elections or specific laws, at least not at first. The most crucial thing, the real dividing line, was a government's moral purpose. Does it work for the common good of all its citizens, or does it only serve the selfish interests of the people in charge? This one distinction is the key that unlocks his entire system.
So, using this moral test and combining it with a simple question of how many people are in charge, Aristotle built his famous classification system. What it gives us are 3 correct forms of government and their 3 deviant or corrupt funhouse mirror versions.
And here it is. This chart is the heart of his entire theory. It's so elegant. On one axis, you've got the number of rulers. Is it one, a few, or many? And on the other axis, you've got their motivation. Are they ruling for the common good or for their own selfish interest? This simple matrix gives us 6 totally distinct forms of government. So let's break them down.
First up, let's look at rule by a single person. When that one leader is virtuous and governs for the benefit of everyone, Aristotle calls it a monarchy. But when that ruler's motivation goes sour and they start ruling only for their own power, their own wealth, well, that monarchy decays into its evil twin, tyranny, which Aristotle thought was the absolute worst form of government possible.
Okay, what about rule by a small group? The correct form here is aristocracy. And this is so important. For Aristotle, aristocracy literally means rule by the aristos, the best people, the most virtuous citizens, who govern for the common good. It's all about merit. The corrupt version is oligarchy. That's when a wealthy few rule, but they do it specifically to protect and grow their own fortunes, completely ignoring the needs of everybody else.
And finally, we get to rule by the many. The correct form he calls a polity. That's where the citizens as a whole govern for the public good. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky for us today. Its deviant form is what he called democracy. Yeah, you heard that right. To Aristotle, democracy wasn't this noble ideal. It was mob rule. It was when the poor majority used their numbers to seize power and rule in their own self-interest, often targeting the rich and threatening the stability of the whole state.
So, after laying out all these ideal forms, Aristotle the pragmatist came back down to earth and asked another question. Okay, what's the best possible government from most countries in the real world? He knew that a perfect monarch or a true aristocracy of the best people was incredibly rare. His answer was all about one thing: stability. And he landed right back on the polity. He saw it as the golden mean, a practical, achievable balance. You can think of it as a kind of mixed government. It takes some of the best parts of oligarchy, which is ruled by the wealthy, and the best parts of democracy, ruled by the poor, and it blends them together to create a stable system that serves everyone.
So what's the magic ingredient that makes a polity so stable? Well, according to Aristotle, it's the power of a large, strong middle class. He argued that the folks in the middle, who are neither super rich nor desperately poor, are the most likely to be guided by reason. They don't have the arrogance of the wealthy or the desperation of the poor, which makes them the bedrock of a stable society and the ones least likely to start or support a revolution.
So why are we still talking about this guy from ancient Greece? It's because his ideas didn't just describe his world. They gave us the very vocabulary and the analytical tools that we still use to make sense of our own.
I mean, his legacy is just immense. The idea that law should be supreme over any single ruler, that's him. The importance of citizens actually participating in their government, that's him too. His deep analysis of how inequality causes revolutions and the whole method of comparing different political systems, we owe a huge debt to Aristotle for all of it.
Which brings us all the way back to that one simple, defining question. If we take Aristotle's timeless test and we apply it to our world today, right now, what do we see? Are our governments genuinely working for the common good of everyone, or do they mostly serve the selfish interests of the powerful? That, Aristotle would tell us, is the only question that really matters.